Nelly just took the internet back to a moment that still hits heavy, and the reaction? Emotional, reflective, and honestly, a little bit intense, because his tribute to DMX on April 9th, 2026 has fans saying this wasn't just a post, this was a reminder of an era that can never be recreated. And the moment that IG story went up, the internet started spiraling, not with drama this time, but with memories, respect, and a whole lot of "you just had to be there" energy. Now let's talk about what actually happened. Nelly shared a photo honoring DMX on the anniversary of his passing 5 years later, and it instantly struck a chord because DMX didn't just exist in hip-hop, he dominated it. His presence, his voice, his energy, it wasn't normal. It was raw, it was aggressive, it was spiritual. And when he passed away on April 9th, 2021, it left a gap that a lot of fans still feel today. But what fans notice next is where things really get interesting, because this wasn't just about remembering DMX. This opened up a bigger conversation about that early 2000s era of hip-hop. Nelly has said before that he came up during what he calls the toughest era. And when you really think about it, he's not lying. You had DMX, Jay-Z, and Eminem all at their peak. That's not just competition, that's pressure at the highest level. And this is where the industry machinery gets exposed in a different way, because people forget how hard it was to stand out back then. There was no TikTok, no shortcuts, no viral trends to save you. You either had hits or you didn't. You either commanded attention or you got overlooked. And somehow, Nelly carved out his own lane in the middle of all that chaos. But the best moments don't end there, because look at what happened next once fans started reflecting on DMX's impact. The comments, the reposts, the clips, everything started resurfacing. People were sharing old performances, interviews, freestyles, and the energy was the same across the board: respect, not just for DMX as an artist, but for what he represented. But what fans noticed next is how emotional the tone shifted, because this wasn't just nostalgia, it was loss. People started talking about how DMX's music helped them through real-life situations, struggles, pain, growth. That's the kind of impact you can't fake. That's the kind of legacy that doesn't fade with time. And let's be real, because this is where the conversation gets deeper. DMX wasn't a perfect figure. He had his struggles, his battles, his public ups and downs. But that's exactly what made him relatable. He never pretended to be something he wasn't. And in an industry that often rewards image over authenticity, DMX stood out by just being real. But what fans noticed next is how Nelly's tribute added another layer to his own story. Because when you acknowledge someone like DMX, you're also reminding people of where you come from. You're reminding them of the environment you had to survive in, the level you had to compete at, and the respect you had to earn. And that's why this moment feels important, because it's not just about honoring the past, it's about understanding it. It's about recognizing that the artists we see today are standing on foundations built by people like DMX. And when those foundations get acknowledged, it sends a message. But the rehook here is how fans started comparing eras again, because that conversation never really dies. Some people are saying the early 2000s will never be matched. Others are arguing that every generation has its own greatness. But one thing everyone seems to agree on, that era was different. And it makes you wonder how artists today would hold up in that environment. No safety nets, no constant online validation, just raw talent and competition. That's what Nelly was referring to when he called it the toughest era. And moments like this remind people why. But what fans notice next is how this tribute also brought a sense of unity. Because for once, the internet wasn't divided. There were no arguments, no sides being taken, just respect, just appreciation, just people coming together to acknowledge someone who left a lasting impact. And that's rare, especially in today's climate where everything turns into a debate. So when a moment like this happens, it stands out. It feels genuine. It feels necessary. But let's not ignore the bigger picture, because this is also about legacy. DMX's influence didn't stop when he passed. It continues through the artists he inspired, the fans he touched, and the culture he helped shape. And every time someone like Nelly speaks on that, it keeps the legacy alive. But what fans notice next is how these moments hit differently as time goes on. 5 years might not seem like a long time, but in music, it's enough for a whole generation to rise. And yet, DMX's name still carries weight, still commands respect, still sparks emotion. And that's the mark of a true icon. Not just success in the moment, but impact that lasts beyond it. And that's why this tribute matters. So now the question is, as we continue to move forward in music and culture, Are we doing enough to honor the legends who built the foundation, or are we too focused on what's trending right now? What do you think about Nelly's tribute to DMX? And do you believe today's artists truly understand the weight of that era? Don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories the internet can't stop talking about.